Now we're live. Hello. Hello, YouTube. Had a false start over here. Don't worry about it. All right. Yeah, I think I'm good if you guys are. I'll
Okay,
hit record.
perfect. Where am I?
I'm recording. I'll
Sweet.
get over here.
All right.
Let me hit record. Record, please. Why you not record? Delete. Hold on. It not wants to record. I have it armed. It's in one. It's armed. It's on. Check, check. There we go. Now we're good.
All right. Sweet. I'll get it started. Welcome to the show. Listeners, welcome in. It's good to have you back. Josh, Johnny, it's good to see you both again. We took last week off partly because we were just coming back from a weekend together. I can say for myself, that was a lovely time. Josh, I have to give you props. I have to give you a straight out of jail free card for hosting us for the weekend, for treating us to all the right restaurants, all the right places. We went to Busey's. We did all the things. It was a great weekend.
And that's the end of the podcast, guys. Thank you so much for listening. It's so I'm going to cash in that get out of jail free card to murder you both now.
Well,
you.
look, if you're new to the show, there's an ongoing debate that, for the most part, I have been trying to mediate between Josh and Johnny. And it goes like this. The gas chain restaurant, the very popular one, whatever you want to call it, a lot of people call it Buc-ee's. It's spelled BU-CEES because it's possessive, because that's what we do with convenience stores and gas stations and the such. So most people call it Buc-ee's, Josh being one of those people. Johnny, upon seeing the spelling of it, decided that it's called Busey's. And every once in a while, I'd throw Busey's in just to see Josh get triggered a little bit. But I have to say, we came across some information last weekend that I think is very pertinent to this debate. Do you guys, listeners, do you know the name of the beaver? The name of the beaver is Buchanan. Busey's. It's official.
See, it's actually not. I have the Wikipedia article right in front of me, actually. It does say founder Arch Beaver Appland opened his first store. He formed the name Buc-ee's by combining his childhood nickname, the name of his Labrador Retriever, whose name was
Bucyrus.
Buck.
Oh.
Nope, just Buck. As well as the appeal of a old toothpaste mascot, Bucky the Beaver. So
where did this Buchanan nonsense come from?
That sounds made up.
It's
Also,
one
he
of
could be wrong,
it's
too.
one of the related names to Bucky, but it's not the only name. And sometimes you can just go by Bucky, especially when it's a dog or a chipmunk. They don't.
Well, right.
Buchanan Beaver is not his Christian name.
I don't know.
I do know, actually. I do know.
Well, okay, then I feel like I've been lied to, because why did we decide that his name was Buchanan last weekend?
I didn't decide anything. You both insisted that he be called Buchanan.
I thought that's what his name was. Okay, well, now I may have to go back to my
Welcome back to
mediator
reality.
role, because I was fully on the Busey's side. Like last weekend, there's a big shift for me, and now I'm not so sure. So, anyways, otherwise, we had a great weekend, despite what it sounds. We had a great weekend. Johnny,
all we did was scream at each other for so long.
if you missed it on Instagram, you should follow us over there. We're at Fifth and Goal Sports. Johnny, you got your well-deserved footlong cookie for winning picks of the week in season 1. So hats off to you.
Thank you. I look forward to the Panda Express burrito coming my way next.
Yeah.
Real quick, oh, hold on. I might be peeking. I might be making Aaron's life so much hard. I am peeking. I am so sorry. Let me drop myself a little bit. Check. Okay, we're good. Sorry, Aaron. I was giving you peeking, Josh.
All good.
Lots of plosives today. But you guys might be thinking of Bucky Barnes, everyone's favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe and just Marvel comic book.
True.
Because his name is James Buchanan Barnes. He chooses to go by Bucky, but not everyone does. Some people are just born as Bucky.
I mean, I
Like
will
the
say,
Beaver.
now that I'm back in my mediator role, Bucky is a better abbreviation than Bukey.
Oh yeah, sorry,
Sorry,
you guys
Mr.
were both
Bukey
fully
Barnes.
on the Bukey Barnes.
Yeah. Well, we'll do some more digging. I'm not. We'll do some more digging.
I think I'm very happy with the amount of digging I've done for us.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, one of the things we did, 2 weeks ago at this point, was watch some football together, which was a lot of fun. And I want to start with a team that we got to take a little tour of campus. Well, we took a tour of lots of different places, but we went to SMU's campus. Josh was kind enough to show us around, and we were bummed that SMU was on a bye week last week. We probably would have partaken of a football game in Dallas.
Tickets.
Yeah. And prior to that, the week before, they played BYU in week 2. Looked very bad. The three of us, I think, were collectively watching that game in our own respective places, and we were like, wow, SMU, this offensive line looks bad. You guys look bad. Bye week happens. We kind of don't even think about SMU. SMU plays TCU, the Battle of the Iron Skillet, the last one that's being played. They played, well, I shouldn't say last, the last that's currently scheduled to be played between TCU and SMU. It's a rivalry that has been played over 100 times. Wow. SMU whacks TCU, puts up 60 plus points, and now they are heading to play Florida State, which we know what a disaster that's been. SMU, all of us, I'm not saying they're back, right? We have a whole thing, Texas is back. I'm not saying SMU is back, but the reason I say that is because BYU last week, or 2 days ago as we're recording, took a Kansas State team ranked in the top 15 and buried them in Provo, demolished them, double-digit win. So maybe it's that BYU is actually pretty darn good. SMU might be okay, and the Big 12 is a mess. That's my summary of week 4 football. Big 12 mess, fun mess, but it's a mess.
Yeah, it's even messier than we expected. I mean,
absolutely.
Everybody coming into the season basically expected the Big 12 to be a mess is unfair in some ways. You could honestly just say it's flat. The conference is flat.
Yep.
Flat. There's not a lot of peaks and valleys when it comes to the Big 12. The margins are so razor thin from team to team that really any given week anyone can beat any other team in the conference, assuming the better team doesn't play their best and the lower team plays at theirs. Whereas where the ACC is very similar, we just expected there to be a few teams at the top that could separate. And that honestly is starting to look very true in the ACC as well. So it's tough. I mean, I kind of thought Kansas State was going to do that too. I felt like Utah kind of separated themselves in a way just because that score was not remotely correct in how that game went between Utah and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State couldn't run the ball. You know, they have Ollie Gordon returning, best running back in the country, at least hypothetically from last year. All their offensive line coming back, terrible. They haven't been able to run, not also just against Utah at all, really, this season. Probably should have lost to Arkansas. They were at home in this game. Like, it was a disaster.
Got boat raced.
A disaster for Oklahoma State. They've looked terrible. Utah won this game without Cam Rising. I don't know how you can't come away from it. Like, when I knew he wasn't playing, I'm like, all right, that makes the pick easy. Wrong. Like, Utah knows who they are, so that wasn't shocking. Just absolutely stunned by how inadequate Oklahoma State was on offense. That was my biggest takeaway. I believe Wilson threw 2 picks for Utah. Like, he didn't really play well. He just didn't screw it up enough for them to lose the game, partially because that Utah defense just absolutely shut down Oklahoma State. Their points were in garbage time. That was one of my biggest takeaways for not a marquee game, I guess, if you will. Oklahoma State has some soul searching to do.
Yes.
While Utah is, I don't think there is a big gap, at least in skill and talent from them and the rest of the pack. They are at the top of the Big 12 right now. I don't think that's arguable. Cam Rising comes back. That ceiling rises for them as well. That was maybe the most stunning result for me of the entire, like, not that Utah even won, just wow.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they just crushed them. And pair that with
100%.
BYU beating Kansas State, which was stunning after they had just whacked Arizona. And, I was expecting to come away from this weekend thinking winner Oklahoma State, Utah, and Kansas State. Those are my two teams. Now you're like, I guess Utah, but after that, I don't know. You got BYU and Iowa State, I guess, still unbeaten.
Yep. And for what it's worth, Utah plays both of those teams at home in November. So if they're still good, that's going to be really fun.
Those will be
Johnny,
fun.
good point about the offensive line, because this offensive line, and I'm not saying this like with hyperbole, this offensive line is literally the oldest and most experienced line in college football. And they were completely dominated the entire game. I mean, yeah, there was a couple touchdowns at the end. Part of the it's all of the offense is bad. It's kind of all around bad. They can't run the ball. Quarterback play has been bad. Alan Bowman gets benched in that game for much of the second half. They put him back in, and he does, to his credit, lead those 2 touchdown drives at the end. But Oklahoma State can't pass, and I think everyone knows it at this point. So Utah stacking the box. The number of plays that Utah ran cover 0 defense, basically daring Oklahoma State to try to take the top off the defense, and the Cowboys just couldn't. Partially because I don't know if they have the quarterback play to do so. Partially because there's just not time. And Alan Bowman's trying his best to get the ball out as quick as he can, but it was ugly. And it's not like Utah's offense was particularly amazing, but their defense put them in great positions. And look, we're accustomed, sadly, to Cam Rising not being available. If for some reason that continues to be the case moving forward, there were some obvious mistakes made at quarterback. But Isaac Wilson, I think, can get you to a Big 12 championship, even as a freshman, because of the pieces that they have. Utah ran the ball extremely well. They've got Kithy at tight end. They've got some pieces. The wide receivers, I thought, did a tremendous job. Utah's in a good spot. Their next couple games, Arizona at home, that's this week coming up, then a bye week at Arizona State, TCU at Houston. That's a pretty manageable stretch, even though Arizona State's a little bit better than perhaps we thought in the preseason. Then, like I said, November features BYU at Colorado, Iowa State at UCF. So that's where things could get interesting for Utah. But I'm with you. I thought that was a very, very interesting game. And for funny now that Kansas State plays Oklahoma State. So the two teams which can pick themselves off the mat first. Based on what we saw this week, I know Kansas State, that was ugly, but I do think, and it's because they're at home partially, but I do think Kansas State is the team that responds of those two, because you're right, there's just some major questions with Oklahoma State that I mean, this could easily
practically an elimination game.
Yeah,
in the
no
conference.
doubt. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Practically an elimination game.
Yep. So that was a fun one. Not Big 12, but still feels like Big 12. Tennessee beats up Oklahoma on the road. I think we saw that coming to a certain extent. You know, like not a huge surprise, and that's no dish on Oklahoma. Just I mean, kind of expected Tennessee to handle business, and they did.
I was gonna say, basically, we watched the end of the Oklahoma-Houston game, and among the 15 games we were watching at the same time, and of that, we basically waited. We knew that was like one of the better options for like College Game Day to go to, and it felt like they went there only because Oklahoma didn't lose.
Yeah,
and like, okay, technically now it's matched, and like you have some momentum going on both teams technically, but this was pretty much a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, and Oklahoma,
that offense was atrocious.
Oh yeah, it's bad. Quarterback
so
issues.
bad.
It's all bad. Yep.
But the O-line was terrible.
Yep.
The play calling was terrible.
Yep.
Like
Calling was terrible.
I don't know. Everybody's jumping on the quarterback, and listen, it wasn't good, but it was all bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that's where I honestly have a hard time just going straight up like, oh, quarterback, just change the quarterback. We'll be fine. Like, no, everything was awful. Like, so I have a hard time even like, I have a hard time coming away like, that's your issue. Like it's the quarterback, maybe, but even if you swap the quarterback, I mean, and you did in this game, it really didn't look a whole lot better. Like because that offensive line could not hold up. You couldn't run the ball, and the play calling made no sense. So, and you were at home, so it's not like you had crowd noise or anything to deal with.
Yep.
And this looks worse on Brent Venables because you let Dylan Gabriel walk. So that does not look good on you as the head coach, because my assumption is he would have stayed if you wanted him.
Yeah.
Because that's what Oklahoma and Kansas State basically both said. Kicked their starting quarterbacks to the curb, said, we don't need you. We're taking the younger guy. Oof. That did not look like good decisions this week.
No.
You know? But that did not look like good decisions by those coaching staffs this week.
Not in the least.
And I'll say this for Tennessee. Oklahoma may not be super, super good. Like, they may not be a top 25 team when the season ends. Who knows? I'm not saying they won't be. I'm not saying they will be. Just work with me here, hypothetical. Let's assume Oklahoma is a top 25 team at the end of the year. How about that? Tennessee winning this game with their defense. Not that their offense was bad, but their offense was a little bumpy at times. That defense got the job done. You're talking about pairing a Tennessee offense with Josh Heupel running the commands with a top 10 defense. Like, I think we're talking about that kind of talent and execution. I mean, that's what we saw Saturday. Tennessee could win the whole darn thing. They've got obviously some work to do, and the season's long. They haven't even really dipped their toe into SEC play. Oklahoma, I guess you count technically, but that'll be interesting. They do play. Is it Alabama? They play in? No, that's in 3 weeks. Who do they play? Georgia in 2 weeks? What am I thinking of? Who do they play? I'll look it up. Anyways, I'm high on Tennessee. Really good start. They've probably been the most impressive team in college football so far. Texas is up there in that consideration as well, but really, really good by Tennessee. And they're just like, they are kind of fun to root for. As someone who from Big Ten country typically does not root for the SEC, it's not hard for me to get behind Tennessee. I love the Vols. Nico is a great quarterback. It's a fun group. They do play Alabama on the 19th. Of course, it's the third Saturday of October. That's the game I was thinking of. Bye week this week for the Vols. Guys, any thoughts on the Big Ten? We got Michigan fending off USC. We had Illinois winning Friday night. Any thoughts on what we've seen from the Big Ten so far?
USC was infuriating. Like, now, obviously, again, if you follow the podcast at all, you know we're not fans of the Wolverines.
Yeah.
As is our right.
But I actually feel like it should have been infuriating for a neutral fan, in the sense of USC came in and almost looked like, wait, Michigan's going to play this brand of football?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Like, you idiots. Like, what on earth did you think they were going to do? They even switched their quarterback, who can hardly throw the ball.
Yep.
What did you expect in this game? It was maddening early in this game. Michigan punched them in the mouth over and over and over again, and USC was just sitting there shocked, like, I can't believe this is the style of game we're playing. What? I could have told you in March, this is the style of play that Michigan was going to have coming into this game. And to be fair, before the season started, I picked Michigan to win this game. So, like, in that sense, not a huge shock. But once the season got going, you know, USC beats LSU, Michigan looks lost on offense completely. And that's my takeaway from the game from a Michigan standpoint of, I don't know how good Michigan really can be, but they're at least not lost anymore. There's very clear path forward. Version of the game is back to what they tried to do last year, minus they're throwing the ball even less, and they're honestly going to have to keep doing that, like, to win games. USC also is a good matchup for them, especially at home, just because USC isn't quite there yet. They're improved, but they're not quite there yet. But there was a 3rd and 1, I think, in the first quarter, and USC tries to run between the tackles at Graham and Grant. And of course, Graham busts through the line and just bear hugs him and throws him to the running back to the ground. And I text Aaron and I'm like, are these guys insane? Like, the whole game plan from the beginning should have been getting Zachariah Branch and the speed of USC out on the edge. Now, not throwing at the Michigan corners on screen passes would also be a wise thing to do. But, like, it was just maddening. USC basically came into the game like, wait, what? Like, oh, this is how Michigan wants to play. And they adjusted at half, credit
Way
to them.
too late, though. Way too late.
But it shouldn't. But yes, if you actually come into the game with the proper game plan and understanding of who Michigan is, which you should have, you knew Alex Orji was starting. That wasn't a surprise. Then you win this game. because you almost won anyway. Because Michigan, outside of one long near touchdown run, could do nothing in the second half offensively. So it was maddening from like this should have been so blatantly obvious. And I can't believe it wasn't to you guys based on the film, based on basic knowledge of who Michigan is. Like, hats off to Michigan's offensive line. That's easily the best game they've played. Their running backs, obviously, great game. That looked like the Michigan team we've watched the last 3 years, the closest thing we've seen. And they controlled time of possession because they got out in front. That's going to be the MO for Michigan the whole season. They have to get the lead because they are really going to struggle from behind. I know they won the game from behind there at the end. They're not going to be able to break off a 65-yard run against a lot of other Big Ten teams down with 2 minutes left to go in the game. Like, that's just not going to happen. So that was kind of just a what on earth if you're the USC coaching staff was going through your mind. But anyway, rant over. You guys go.
I mean, it's a valid point because, look, Lincoln Riley can recruit, even though recruiting's taken a little bit of a dip, but I think they'll be fine. He can obviously bring in people through the portal. That's not a problem. Coaching game plan. Can the man X and O his way to victory? And far too often, especially at USC, the answer has been no. No. And I think there's still a little bit of patience. If you really take a deep dive on the USC program, it sounds like despite being Southern California in Los Angeles, it sounds like their NIL collective is not where it probably should be, especially compared to teams like Ohio State, Oregon, fill in the blank. So I think there needs to be a little bit of patience. But if more and more of these games keep cropping up, at some point you have to question, well, gosh, and I'm saying this about a coach that took an Oklahoma team to the playoff, but you have to ask the question, okay, can this man strategize enough to get to a championship? And I have my doubts because there's games like this that keeps popping up. There's no reason why. And let me read you why. Michigan, there's the last 3 teams to throw for 40 yards or less and defeat an AP top 25 opponent. Michigan did it with 32 yards. The 2 previous are Army with 40 versus Air Force and 2022 Navy, who 0 passing yards against UCF. Michigan is a triple option military academy at this point on offense. And the 3 of us could have sat here, like to your point, Johnny, we could have sat here and told USC coaches that before this game kicked off.
Yeah. They had Navy had 1 run tripled Michigan's total offenses. I realized I was running, but still funny. I just wanted to point that out. It's funny.
Yeah. It is.
This was not a surprise. We knew this going in. They should have been watching the tape from what Texas did, but
oh, you're right, Josh, because Texas laid out the game plan for you, especially on offense.
This is how you beat Michigan right now.
Yep. And I realize
this time,
yeah. And I realize USC can't 1-for-1 match what Texas can do on offense, but darn it, if there's a team that in the Big Ten that can do it, USC's pretty darn close as far as the weapons that they can throw out there. So,
hate that you said that about USC and the Big Ten, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah, we've got a big showdown in the Big Ten this week. Washington Rutgers.
Oh, that Washington Rutgers primetime finally.
On Friday night. Actually could be a really good game. I'm excited for that.
It could be fun.
Yeah, Illinois, big win for them.
We're bringing Pac-12 After Dark to the East Coast.
Yes, we are. It's beautiful. Illinois, big Friday night win at Nebraska. Yes. So more of the same issues for Nebraska, but I think more than anything, really Illinois is like, wow, hats off to you guys. Brett Bielema, after a down year last year, has really kind of righted the ship. By the way, don't look now. Illinois has a quarterback. Luke Altmaier is a good quarterback, and you pair him with what Brett Bielema likes to do, running the ball, big offensive line. It's taken some time, but he's finally got those pieces. This looks very much like one of those powerhouse Wisconsin teams, and that should really excite Illinois fans. Now, what does that turn into? I don't know, TBD, but that's a really good win in a really, really loud environment. Nebraska thinking, oh, we're here, we've made it. It's finally time for Nebraska football to really resurge, and Illinois said, nope. Actually, we will find out about Illinois because they go to Penn State at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we will find everything out about Illinois this week.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. But that's the recap of, and there was some more games in there, but for the purpose of this show, that's our recap of week 4. So good week. Some fun upsets in there as well.
For all of you who are big fans of the Constitution, James Madison hung 70. Now, again, it was 70-50, but man, exploded against North Carolina, and they're undefeated as of this year as well. So keep them in. Are they eligible this year?
They are eligible.
All right.
Yep.
Let's keep them. Let's just keep that in mind. I'm not saying anything about it because any team that I ever desire to do well doesn't. So I'm not going to say anything. I will just point out the score that it was 70-50.
It was a bad week for, I know we're praising James Madison here. I think one of my takeaways from the week too was it was a really bad week for most of our perceived group of 5 contenders. Really, really damaging bad week.
Yep.
So that kind of sucked. You kind of latch onto some of those teams. You really hope that they do well. Memphis goes down, NIU goes down. Just
Toledo.
And I know
lost.
they're still on. Yeah,
Toledo.
I know there's still some undefeated teams left, but
Toledo was close at least.
Heck, even App State getting beat the way they did at home was rough on a Thursday night.
Like a lot of these teams that we came into the season hoping and thinking they might get there have 2 losses already. That doesn't mean that they couldn't end up winning their conference, be at the top, but you're opening up the door for Liberty, an unbeaten Liberty with the worst conference known to man.
Please.
And
guys,
I'm sorry, we don't want that. If you've actually
did the
watched
Liberty experiment last year.
Yeah, and even just look
wasn't
at their
fun.
scores. You don't even have to watch the games, but I have.
Yeah.
The scores are awful. They're awful, and they're playing the worst teams ever. Just please, I beg of one of these teams, Boise State or somebody, to find a way to be a 1-loss group of 5 champ so that we can just not worry about that. Because that's the only way we get a decent game.
App State might also help you out this week because App State and Liberty play. And again, not a good showing on a Thursday night.
Good.
That was very bad. I watched that entire thing. But maybe, I can't even say that was an off night because South Alabama just thoroughly throttled them.
They've been bad. They've been real bad.
Yeah. And Clemson hung 60-some points on, App State's maybe a little bit less.
Bowling Green might actually be the best of the group. They've gotten so close the last 2 weeks, but they just weren't able to pull either one off against
you can't.
A&M and Penn State. I mean, they lose by a touchdown in both games, I think.
Yeah.
Both on the road, of course. I mean, they played outstanding. You can't say anything bad about them, but to kind of take the lead, you need to pull one of those off, and it's the MAC. So you almost build in a MAC loss somewhere, even if you're the winner of the conference. So
that's how MAC works. But
so that's the hard piece, seeing NIU and Toledo go down already, because you're like, dang it, you guys are probably going to lose another game here too. Yeah, even if you're the conference winner. Right. So
and your MAC champion last year is 0-3 because mostly because they played Northwestern Cincinnati, who, by the way, is 3-1 with a lone loss to a bizarre double-digit blown lead to Pittsburgh, who's undefeated. This is a great.
Actually look good.
Yeah,
they actually look good on Saturday, which I think Houston might just be awful.
Yeah,
but
100%. I can't confirm from some alumni down here.
Cincinnati looked better against Houston than they did against Towson in the game I went to, a million times better. Which, again, these are college kids. That's you almost have to erase your mind from the first 2 weeks. Just almost erase it, because
no, Johnny, I can't understand why
accurate.
These 18 to 22-year-olds can't do the things that me sitting down eating chips totally think is possible.
Yeah, for sure.
That is my right as an American to scream at 21-year-olds for not following what is clearly a blitz coming. Why don't they have Skycam? They should have Skycam.
They should. They do have tablets now, Josh.
They have tablets. They have tablets and a guy yelling at them right now.
Yep. Yeah. Perfect. That's all you need.
Speaking of group of 5, we're not going to get into it tonight, but the Pac-12 is cooked because the Mountain West, they're trying to purge the Mountain West. And according to Pete Thamel 18 minutes ago, UNLV has committed to the Mountain West. San Jose State has committed to the Mountain West. The top teams of the American that the Pac-12 is trying to purge, they committed to the American. So
Ooh.
again, not
Oh,
getting into
gosh.
it because it's just but heck, by the time this episode comes out in 2
Mm.
days, it'll be probably
Get
what we're
ready
saying
to
here will be
speak Big
irrelevant.
Sky, buddy.
Yeah. So anyways, that's the whole
Yeah,
thing.
that's
I had
hard.
something else I was going to talk about the group of 5. Oh, it was that Boise State plays Washington State, who is 4-0. Washington State 4-0. Boise State's lone loss is a game-winning field goal against them by Oregon. Here's what I'm reminded of every year, and I will never learn this lesson. I'm sitting here, we make a bunch of like preseason previews and predictions, and I always think to myself, wow, it'll be fun in the last weekend of September to finally know who's good. We're here, I have no idea who's good. And it's this way every year, and it's the best. But I think Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, and Tennessee, I think those teams are really good. Everything else, I have no idea. Missouri
Not a clue.
almost loses to Vanderbilt in double overtime. And again, it's college football. That's what makes it great. But I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So is BYU any good at 4-0? I have no idea. I think so.
No.
You don't think? Okay. Johnny says no. We'll see.
Well, I'm sorry. Not any good is the wrong phrasing.
But like
that I'd
winning the
agree
Big
to.
12, are they a threat to do that?
No, they're not a real contender in the conference to me.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it was a late night in Provo. Huge opportunity there. Great matchup for them against Kansas State, who's really struggled to throw the ball.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And if you watch that game, Kansas State missed the chance to jump on them from the gun. And if Kansas State's offense actually does do that, whole game's different. So is BYU good enough to beat anyone in the conference? Absolutely. But I don't think they're going to be capable of being the hunted, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think they could lose this following week too. I think they're playing Baylor. Wouldn't be shocked if Baylor beat them. Like really,
Baylor's going to be a little motivated.
and that's kind of what I mean. Like, could beat Utah, could beat, and don't get mad at me, Utes. They could beat anyone in that conference. They are also lose.
That's the
every
holy
single
war.
team in that
Anyone
conference.
can beat anyone in that game.
Yeah, but anybody in that conference could beat them, but they could also beat everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think that I think them being the hunted and having to go on the road like afterwards, it's going to be rough for them.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably fair. We'll see. Some other games I'll touch on real quick. Georgia, Alabama is obviously kind of the highlight. We'll talk about that later. We'll make some actual picks. Illinois travels to Penn State. I mentioned that. Washington State is at Boise State. So that game is on the Smurf turf. That's important for the Broncos, who right now I would say are probably the best group of 5 team, I think. I have no idea, but that's my thought. Colorado plays UCF. UCF's undefeated. Colorado is somehow 3-1 with a Hail Mary thrown in there as well. But that's some intriguing stuff coming from the Big 12. Louisville plays Notre Dame this week. So that's also interesting. Notre Dame gets their first test since Northern Illinois, I guess. Although who knows? I don't know who's good. That's what I'm here to say. I don't know who's good. Those are the games we're watching, that and some other games as well. You've got North Carolina Duke, which is hilarious because North Carolina gave up 70 points, as Josh says. Duke is 4-0. What the heck is happening in college football? We don't know. We don't know, and it's great. NFL, we have not really talked about very much. But I thought we would take a couple minutes here because we're a few weeks into the season. Some of our teams are doing quite well. Some of our teams are, depends on the results of tonight's games. Let's put it that way. Josh, your Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-0.
The messiest, worst 3-0 you have ever seen in your life.
Is anybody shocked though that actually
this happens every year.
I'm
you guys
not surprised in the slightest.
I told you guys 3 weeks ago I think you guys both talked me off the ledge, and by ledge I mean maybe not 9-8 this year. And you're like, no, you'll be at or above 500 by a game, and I'm like, no, this is fine. No, we're fine. It's the stupidest way to get there. When I say stupid, it's not fully stupidest.
Well, week 1 was pretty stupid.
Oh, week 1 was incredibly stupid. Amen and amen. I want all of that. I'm finding more and more I'm addicted to the Midwestern style of football, which is just win in ways that you hate to see.
Or infuriating for your own fan base to experience.
Exactly. I get it. I can't have like fandom to a team with 6 rings and also enjoy the process. Like, that's too much. the Patriots got it for a few years, and they're not gonna. I mean, they're paying for it dearly.
Yep.
Oh, how they're paying for it. So I can't like, you know. So it's just dumb, and I love it. I'm glad that they've started Justin Fields. He's been fine. Turns out when you have a decent offensive scheme, somewhere halfway decent, where they're like, "Hey, what if we tried our best to, give you some help?" He's not bad.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. No, not yet. But maybe having an offensive coordinator that's wants to get more than 38 yards a game.
Yeah,
That's great. I'm doing fine. We're first in the AFC North. It's the stupidest
by
time
quite
on.
a lot at this point.
By
which is
not a little bit.
ridiculous.
By not a little bit.
They'll come back down. They always do. They could start 9-0 and they'll lose 5 in a row or something.
I mean, here's the thing. The next we are at the Colts next week.
It depends on which Anthony Richardson you get for a bulk of the game.
Exactly.
If you get good Anthony Richardson, man, you're in trouble.
But
you
then
get bad, you'll win by 30. So.
But then we're hosting the Cowboys, which is fun. Like, again, I'm not saying that these things are winnable.
No, they are winnable.
These are reasonably winnable games.
I would argue, actually, which is more dangerous.
Yeah,
for you
at
guys.
Las Vegas, hosting the Jets, hosting the Giants. Like, it's not the worst schedule.
No, it is not.
We wait. Like, again, like if there's any drops in games, they can happen now while it's not bad. Like Ravens Chiefs, like if the Chiefs stay up, let's see here. If the Ravens figure out what's going on, like if the Bengals figure out what's going on, like there's so much time for the Steelers to figure out what's going on as well. So it's not preseason play, it's not non-conference play, but for what it is, this is not a bad schedule for them to be where they are. They can drop a game or two while still tightening up what they want to do.
Yeah. And
I'm doing great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you on the Justin Fields comment. It's amazing if you support him a little bit. He can actually do some good things for you. Chicago.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? The three of us, repeatedly.
All the three of us, so many times for years.
Yeah. If you really want to just have a fun trip down memory lane, there's a video on our YouTube channel, and we clickbaited it a little bit, but it was how the Bears are ruining Justin Fields. And the Bears fans, to their credit, they found it. They let us know how they felt, and here we are. So
yeah, I'm glad that I stuck by their guns, their principles.
But they were wrong.
They were wrong. So did we.
And we're wrong all the time. We're about to go to picks of the week. You know that to be true.
Oh, we are so deeply
and I'm
wrong.
not fully taking a victory lap because we're 3 weeks into the season, and not even because Monday Night Football has yet to happen with the Bengals and some other teams here. My Detroit Lions, interesting start to the season. First 2 weeks went 1-1. They beat the Rams, who now I don't even know if the Rams are. Well, anyways, doesn't matter. They're 1-1 coming out of the first 2 weeks. Red zone offense, an issue. Week 3 at Arizona, not that we necessarily solved the red zone issues, but the defense played one of the best games I've seen from the Lions under Dan Campbell, like just period. And that's exciting because the defense has been what has held the Lions back. And it's not like they were that far away from winning everything last year, really. I don't need to recount the entire 49ers game, but that was really exciting for me. We're 2-1. We're heading to Monday Night Football next week against Seattle. So I'm feeling okay. I would say like we're 2-1. And in my mind that we're still, like you said, Josh, we're still figuring things out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's not necessarily been a clean game in any of the three, but we're figuring things out. We did have the offensive highlight of maybe the season with the hook and ladder play. So that was fun. So shout out to Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator. Feeling okay. Lions 2-1. And now we go from best to good to whatever you got going on in the Queen City there, Johnny.
Oh, this is what the Bengals do every year. So, I didn't believe the sky was falling after losing the first game to the Patriots, but that loss looks worse than ever. Like they might honestly be the worst team besides the Carolina Panthers in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the moment, you're like, that is a horrendous loss. Like, there's just no excuse for it. And it was still more like, I have no explanation. Like, this team can't get out of their own way. Uh, we won't get into this is a week ago now, so we won't get into the officials with the Chiefs. But like, that game was for the taking, and they screwed themselves multiple times in that game as well. So I don't want to really hear it from Bengals fans either, because did the refs suck? Did they screw you again? A little bit, but you screwed yourself more than the refs did. So when that's the case, I really just don't want to hear it. You had every opportunity to seize control of that game and make it 2 possessions before Mahomes even got the ball. So you have to do that, and you didn't. Like, that Patriots loss, though, is just going to haunt them. I know it's going to haunt them when it gets to the playoff time with the division or the wild card. Like, that is going to be a haunting loss. And Zach Taylor deserves a lot more of the blame here, too. Like, every single year as a head coach. Now, I'm thankful that they're always better at the end of the year and they finish strong rather than the inverse, a la Cliff Kingsbury. But there's no excuse to be this bad out of the gate every single season. He's been a head coach for a while now. There's no excuse to not have altered your training program so your players are more ready to play them more often in the preseason. There's just no excuse. Obviously, it's a must-win tonight against the Commanders. You can't start 0-3. You just can't. I think everybody expects them to win. They're a touchdown favorite. I would still be surprised if they did lose. Not that the Commanders are some awful team, but still would expect that. They play the Panthers the next week. That'll be a little bit tougher with Andy Dalton, but they should win that. Ravens is a toss-up, always is. Like, I kind of expect them to split that. They've started awful too. And then they play the Giants and Browns. So, like, what Josh just said too with the Steelers, extremely manageable. Which is why it's incredibly frustrating to start that season off 0-2, because you started looking at the schedule for the Bengals, and before they play, the Eagles on October 27th, you were thinking, hey, like, are we talking about like just a 1-loss, maybe 2-loss Bengals team at this point, like right in the thick of the division hunt, which it's early, still could get back into it, but just maddening. T. Higgins will be back tonight. I expect that to solve a lot on offense as well. It's just it's the same old, which is extremely exhausting for a fan, because because everybody's going to say, well, don't panic. And I'm like, I'm not panicking, but you also can't say these games don't matter, because the Bengals always are on the road in the playoffs. And you can't every year expect to win these games on the road. They're always in Arrowhead, partially because the scheduling committee hates the Bengals, because even the regular season, they're always at Arrowhead. They're never at home. I don't understand what that's about. But you can't be going to Arrowhead every year. You can't be going to Buffalo every year. And now Houston, like, you can't always have to win these road games. They make it so tough on themselves for no reason, because Chiefs loss was dumb, but whatever. Got to win the New England game. Like, got to. So I'm not panicking, but incredibly frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, totally understandable. I only need Joe Burrow to score like 40 fantasy points for me to win one of my leagues. So good luck to him. Good luck to him. Ravens,
no quarterback's doing that this year.
Yeah, seriously. That could be a whole podcast topic just by itself. Quarterback play and Tom Brady's thoughts, and there's a lot of thoughts floating around there. There's some interesting thoughts from Bo Wallace, former quarterback of Ole Miss. If you didn't see that, that's worth checking out. There's some interesting. How do I put this? There's some interesting food things happening. A 5-layer beefy burrito comes to mind. So just a lot happening on the interwebs. So a lot happening in football, a lot happening everywhere. A lot happening with Johnny running away with picks of the week. So do I bother saying the score? Probably do. Fine, whatever. Johnny 14, whatever. Josh 8, Aaron 7. I think at this point, statistically speaking, unless I rig this system, Johnny has already won season 2. But we're gonna make him go first here with Alabama, Georgia, and then Josh and I can pick whatever we want after that, because who cares? It's really the race to not lose. By the way, I did see, completely unrelated, Pop-Tarts has a new costume available at
yes.
Spirit Halloween. So maybe maybe season 3, the loser of Picks of the Week wears the Pop-Tarts costume for an episode. That might actually be pretty good. To be determined there. Not season 2, because that could definitely be me. All right, Alabama, Georgia. That's the marquee game coming up this Saturday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This game is being played at Alabama, and for the first time since, I believe, 2015, Alabama is an underdog in the regular season.
Yes.
Partially because Alabama and Georgia never play in the regular season. We've yelled about that before. I won't do it now. They're playing this year. It's great. Johnny, what are your thoughts? Alabama, Georgia.
Well, I think everybody's going to look at this game, and especially if you're just a scoreboard watcher and haven't actually sat down and watched the games, which, listen, I understand. Not everybody can. That's not even a judgment. Not everybody could just sit down and watch a million games every Saturday. I understand. But everybody's going to stare at that scoreboard of that 1-point win that Georgia had against Kentucky and like, oh, crap, I don't know. Also, both these teams are coming off a bye. So there's not an advantage there, but both teams should be very well prepared. And I just think there's going to be an overreaction from a lot of people about what happened in that Kentucky game. Kentucky always gives them everything they got. Yeah, I can't even fully explain why, but they do. They're very familiar with Georgia. You know, these are former division opponents. I think they're just very familiar with them. And Alabama is the far more explosive team. I will say the path to victory for Alabama is Georgia has really struggled to run the ball. And if Alabama, which they have the ability to, and this is what scares me about my prediction, if they shut down and make Carson Beck, which he can win the game by himself, but if you make a team one-dimensional, and if they make them one-dimensional early in the game, Georgia will be in trouble because Alabama is by far the more explosive offense to where you can bottle them up, but they have the opportunity with Milroe to just pop a touchdown off out of nowhere. And this is not, while a very talented Georgia defense, it's not the Georgia defense we've been accustomed to the last 3 years. So I that makes it sound like I'm picking Alabama, but I'm not. I'm still picking Georgia 23-20. I think it's going to be an awesome game, slugfest. I think I'm picking the better quarterback here. I think Carson Beck is slightly better. I think you're going to get Clemson version of Georgia in this game. I think that's part of the sleepwalking against Kentucky. I'd be stunned if this is a blowout either way. There's just absolutely no way in my head I can picture that. But I'm going to go with the slightly better quarterback and a team that I think just gets bored, if you will, depending on the opponent. And Alabama really struggled with South Florida too. We talked about that. That scoreline lied. Yep. So both these teams have showed that they are vulnerable. So I'll go with Georgia. I think it's a more known commodity. I'm fascinated to see how Kalen DeBoer is in his first real test as the Alabama head coach.
I'm going with Georgia as well. And I'll say 28-21 is my score. Partially, it's just because I thought going into this year, Georgia was just the best team. And the Kentucky game was not good by any stretch of the imagination. But I still think there's a very realistic scenario in which Georgia is still the best team in college football, even at Alabama. I know that's a really tough place to play, but just as soon as last year, Texas goes into Tuscaloosa and isn't bothered by that environment. Georgia won't be bothered by that environment, I don't think. There's too many veterans on that team, even with all of the production they've lost to the NFL over the last few years. You know, it's funny, we talk about Kirby Smart gaslighting his players into thinking that no one believes in them, that, they're going 7-5. That's not true again this year, but there's at least a little bit more realism to the fact that some people will think Alabama is going to beat Georgia, because that could certainly happen. So I'm curious just to see the mind games that Kirby Smart can play with his team to get them prepared. Not saying Kalen DeBoer can't do that. He just hasn't had to really at this level. So kind of agreeing with Johnny here for the most part, which I'm hitching my wagon to your first place
Yeah.
in the points here. But that's what I'm going. I'm going Georgia, but no result other than a blowout either direction will surprise me.
Here's the thing. Normally, you know me as the vibes guy. I want to vibe, and I pick the option that in my 12-year-old brain thinks is really funny. I need points.
Mm.
If I cannot White Sox myself, and like at least make it slightly competitive this week, because I am arbitrary and capricious. This week, I'm picking the opposite of Johnny, just simply because if I lose, no skin off my back. If I win, I am getting a point against Johnny. So this is cold, hard, just numbers game at this point. Will this happen every week? Probably not. I still might go back to vibes, but this week, I don't like Alabama. I want them to do poorly. I would like them to not be in the playoff. But Johnny picked Georgia before I got a chance to get in, so Alabama it is.
Yeah.
I picked, and just a reminder, like I did pick Georgia to lose 1 or 2 games before the season started. So also this is part of the 12-team playoff. This is not remotely an elimination game. It's a leg up, certainly, to get like plus the tiebreaker, to get to the SEC title game. But this is not remotely an elimination game when it comes to the playoffs. Just thins the margin for error coming up, but this won't be seen as a bad loss, especially if it's Georgia losing on the road to Alabama. This, just sit back and enjoy the game and don't think about repercussions because there aren't a lot.
Yeah.
So just watch and enjoy 2 really good football teams. Try not to think big picture. Honestly, do that with most of these games too.
Yeah.
Really. Like just watch the game. Like don't, that's why I loved Cal Florida State this week. It's all,
Calgorithm.
If you know, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. If you know, you know. Just wonderful time, just enjoying the game. Just do that. Forget about the playoff.
And to that point, the big picture could be that the loser ends up better off. And that's that's a weird thing to say, that a team would be better off losing, because the only reason I say that is because it presents a scenario where the winner has a leg up to the SEC championship game. Maybe they run into a Tennessee or a super physical team and they play an additional game. Sure, that top 4 seed's on the line. But let's say Georgia, just work with me here. I'm way off script here, but let's say Georgia loses this game and they run the table, but due to tiebreakers or whatever else happens, or maybe they lose one more game, they don't make it to the SEC championship game. Georgia in that scenario is still a 5 or 6 seed, and their path to the playoff could be better, even if you're playing an additional game, if you do draw that group of 5 team, because like we've mentioned, we're 4 weeks in, there's already such cannibalization of the group of 5. So if you can get a 5 seed, and again, this is just a what if, no point in really breaking this down any further until like late November. There is a scenario where the 5 seed has a nicer path to a potential championship than the 1 seed, which is just wild. It's what we have because we have this screwy 12-team playoff system. Sorry, I said it'd be nice. This different, I said a few weeks ago I'd be nice about this. This different 12-team playoff system. So I just throwing that out there. Johnny, to your point, you're absolutely right. We don't even know what the repercussions of a loss are. Could be really damaging, could not be at all. No way to know. Enjoy it for what it is. I think that's a really good message.
Yeah.
All right, it is what we're following. And I can start because I've got kind of more boring college football things. Not boring to me, but maybe boring to some of you compared to what we normally scour the internet for. But Utah State has received an offer to join the Pac-12. They responded yes in like 10 minutes. So that's not what I'm following. But again, that's still things
Gonzaga looks like they might as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the Pac-12 is 5th and goal may receive an offer from the Pac-12 here if we stay on the air long enough. That's not what I'm following. What I'm following is this. There is a clear and obvious. We don't know who's going to win between Alabama and Georgia. We don't know who's going to win between Illinois and Penn State. We can give our best guesses, yada, yada, yada. We do know the best soda in the Coke versus Pepsi competition. It's frankly not close.
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper. Yep. But the second winner is Coke. You're right, Josh. Dr.
Yes.
Pepper might be the winner. Coke. Sorry if that offends you. We're on the right side of history here. I'm
We're
sorry
a
to tell
Coke
you.
family here. I don't know
Yep.
what we have indicated to say otherwise.
I don't know. And why? And I don't just say that arbitrarily and capriciously, although I do. I say that because Nebraska has been cursed by Pepsi. And here's how I know that. After Nebraska won their last national championship in 1997, in June of 1997, they made a critical error in which they switched to Pepsi as the official beverage vendor of Nebraska. Since that time, gentlemen, guess how many conference championships and national championships Nebraska has won in football? As Josh winds the conspiracy clock, that would be a big fat 0. 72% win percentage by
I had no idea.
the Cornhuskers before Pepsi, pre-Pepsi, BP, as we say on the calendars. 72% wins, BP. After Pepsi, AP, the year of our Lord, 1997 AP, 64% win percentage on the football field. And it gets worse because they lost to Illinois on Friday night. It went, in overtime, the overtime stats for Nebraska are just appalling in their last 8 games. Not only that, Nebraska has not beaten a ranked opponent since September 17th, 2016. Now, sometimes I see 2016 on the calendar and I think, oh, you know what? That wasn't that long ago. Guys, that was almost a decade ago at this point. We're in the year of our Lord 2024. It's late September. I'm in my mid-20s. Time is flying. They're 0-26 since that point versus ranked opponents. And I actually make that 0-27 because the tweet I'm looking at happened prior to their loss against Illinois. They're 0-27. They're going to have several more opportunities to break that streak. It wouldn't surprise me if they find a way to do so. But I'm telling you, Pepsi has cursed Nebraska. And, frankly, there's a really easy way to remove the curse. It's just to cancel your beverage agreement with Pepsi.
Yeah.
Heck, if you have to pay a buyout, it's nothing you're not doing for Scott Frost still, probably.
That's a much easier curse to break in many ways than the Florida State curse.
Oh, it's so easy.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
That is... I realized I pulled out the conspiracy clock for that. Man, you just...
May not even be a
not
conspiracy.
Even a conspiracy.
Might just be real.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not even an excuse. It's just a reason.
This is... If you have to... Nebraska, if this is your carry Madame Zeroni up a hill, do it. I'll start a GoFundMe. 100% of the funds will go straight to
GoFundMe. They've still had sellouts this whole time. They can pay for that.
True. And maybe it's not a Coke thing.
If it helps.
Maybe it's just a Pepsi thing. Heck, sign a deal with Faygo. I don't care.
Yeah.
Do something different, man. Do something different.
You're right, Aaron. That's very interesting.
Yep.
It might not even be a Coke thing. You're right.
What's hold on. Gas station chains in Nebraska.
I think Casey's might be the big one.
Casey's is going to be the big one. Quick Trips, come and go. Loves
is the best.
Loves is good. Sign with Loves. Do they have anything like exclusive drink wise? No, but just put a Loves in the stadium.
There you go.
Yeah.
Field logos are a thing now.
But a real one
so
though,
hard.
not like trucks can
thing.
still come in and truckers can still take a shower and do everything they need to, like a real Loves in the stadium.
Oh, 100%.
I love it.
I'm looking at the parking.
Dang it, I did not mean to. I'm sorry.
Stadium.
I have to apologize. I said I love it, not even thinking what I was saying. That's on me. I got to be better on this show.
That's okay.
I hold myself to it. No, I really don't. But
I hold
anyways.
myself a contempt report.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm getting traffic for Memorial Stadium. There's a good chance.
Josh, while you do that, I'm going to go on a mini rant here because I'm sure yours will be
it's right off
more
of 180.
fun.
There is space. There is space.
Yes.
Good.
Josh,
Without me
you're
turning on this satellite view, there's space.
Your topic looks a lot more fun, and I'd like to end on a positive note tonight.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm going to go on my mini rant and then let you back clean up here. So I have just been watching sports, so apologies. There's nothing else for me to talk about. I don't even have a conspiracy really to talk about, although some of you might think that I'm talking about conspiracies here. I think officiating is at an all-time low across the board. I'm not even talking one specific sport. I'm talking all of them. It's atrocious out there right now. And listen, we're always going to have fans complaining about calls, even when they're the most obvious calls in the world. But it's bad, man. It's really, really bad. Premier League was a joke this weekend, not just because I'm an Arsenal fan against Man City. That was awful. NFL has been awful as far as their consistency with the calls. Like I even told you, the Bengals, that was pass interference. It was. But you know what also was? Last night when the Chiefs mugged, I think it was Kyle Pitts in the end zone. That was a worse one, I'd argue. He's not even looking at the ball. So the issue is there's no consistency. There's no repercussions. I also don't agree with giving repercussions because half these guys are still part-time, which is madness. It is madness. The money that is going around the sport, and now especially because the lack of money the officials are getting, and now because sports gambling is so prominent in this country now, the conspiracies, and I think that's part of it, are getting worse and worse. The problem is, too, they're kind of believable, some of them. They're kind of believable. Not even that it's necessarily outright cheating, but that these officials are predisposed to favor one team or the other. Or they're hearing from higher ups before the game, hey, something that happened on Thursday Night Football, I want you to prioritize that now all of a sudden. So they're calling late hits on the quarterback that aren't late hits on the quarterback all game. So we've talked about this before. This actually isn't really a rant against the officials on the field. This is a rant against the organizations and the leagues that don't properly support their officiating crews. You've never had more money. It's never been wealthier. There is absolutely zero reason that any official should not be getting paid a really good salary that they don't have to have a second job. There is no excuse for that whatsoever. They need to be full-time positions. They need to be training the whole time in the off season with mandatory training. I know these guys do. I know they work hard. There's no way they don't. But you need to have proper training. If we're talking college football, it needs to be across the board the same standardized training. And with better pay, you're going to get better candidates because that's how every job is in a capitalist society. The more money that you're paying, you're going to get more younger people who want to be involved in that career field. You're going to get better officials. You're going to have better results on the field too. So this is more of a rant on these leagues for you cheap, can't say the word because you guys are being absolutely ridiculous. You have the money to pay them. It's a drop in the bucket for you to actually support them properly. And you're hanging them out to dry because everybody just yells and screams about the officials. And listen, they're not good a lot of the time. But the bigger root cause is this dude is also a science teacher or something else, going on here, or a plumber or whatever. It's not their full-time gig because you're not supporting them that way. And if you're a good official, you're getting flown all over the country, all over the place. That's not great either. You're overworking the good officials that are good. And then what happens then? You're overworking them, so they stop being good. You need more crews. You need standardized systems. You need better pay. It's really that simple if we're talking about the officiating crews and just needing to be better.
Yeah. Well, and if you actually pay them like you should relative to, it's ridiculous. You can hold them accountable and you, like you said, you can have ways that they move it up. And I know there's some of that. We're going to be reminded of that even more. You talked about all the sports being bad. Major League Baseball playoffs start in less than 2 weeks. We are all going to especially for those who don't follow the game religiously in the regular season, we're going to be quickly reminded of just how bad Major League Baseball umpires can be at times. Now, it's the playoffs. It should be the best crews, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And that's got to do with unions. It's a whole thing. Johnny, I'm with you on this crusade. I'm willing to do battle with you. I don't know what that even looks like other than yelling into a microphone, but that's a good place to start.
Hey, we're very good at that.
Yep. Yep. So I can do that. Major League Baseball, we will talk about it a little bit next week. You may have noticed we did not talk about Major League Baseball a lot this summer. That's because when I talk about baseball, I am reminded about the Reds and I spiral into depression. So fired their manager yesterday. So you can see I've got my Joey Votto Reds jersey hanging up in the background, reminiscing on the glory days of the early 2010s. And by that, I mean us still losing playoff series, but you know.
The glory days of being mid.
Yep. So anyways, Johnny, totally with you. Josh, what do you got?
Oh, it's game time, my guys. It's time for bad basketball trivia.
Yes. Let's go. Man, I'm excited to be the one not being bad at telling trivia.
Yes. This is going to be fun. The worst black holes in NBA history. And by this, I mean you pass this player the ball, they ain't giving
there's
it
an
back.
there's an easy answer here, right off the bat.
The game I want to play is one of two things. One, you can either name the players you think are the biggest black holes, because I have the objective number in front of me.
Okay.
I have the guy.
And Johnny and I are for sure thinking of the same person. Just for the record.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that being said, let's hold off on that guy.
Okay.
And let's warm up the rest of the listeners. I'll tell
These are
you,
current players, Josh, not in the past.
all time.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That changes it.
Yep, all time.
Okay.
Oh, then we weren't thinking of the same person because I was thinking all time right off the bat. Anyways,
well,
here's a
Aaron
famous quote. We'll get to it.
Aaron may also have gotten. Yeah, I was gonna say Aaron may have also gotten the same TikTok I got.
No,
for me to start this research.
No, I'm flying blind here.
Oh, flying blind. Oh, this is so fun. All right, we're gonna start with everyone's favorite player, Corey Majetti.
Okay.
He played for quite a few teams. The Magic, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Bucks, the Bobcats, and the Pistons, all the way from 99 to 2013. I'm going to give you no frame of reference. All time, what do you think his assists per game was? He averaged 16 points per game and 5 rebounds per game.
I mean, I'm assuming since this is
an assist.
I'll go. I was going to be generous, and maybe I'm being too generous. 1.7.
Dude, he did 2.1.
Okay, all right.
Oh.
Not bad, not great.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Now, Josh, is this based on just purely the ratio of points to assists, or is this like they've gone and done like the deep dives and like usage percentage and all this? Like, do we know how this calculation is being?
So these first few warm-ups are just straight box score.
Okay,
just
perfect.
Straight up whatever NBA archive is. And then we'll get to the beauty of exactly what you said.
Okay, cool.
The idea of the black hole is, in fact, it's not just the fewest assists. Because let's quickly move into Carmelo Anthony. Let's just go there. He actually, oh, that's bad. Actually did slightly better than our friend we just talked about.
Okay.
All-time career. What do you think he averaged in assists per game?
I'm going to say 3.5.
Okay.
2.5.
2.7.
Okay.
Point to Johnny. No, he did have a career low of sometimes he was averaging 1 per game when he was with the Knicks. But
okay.
That's not even the worst. That is not the worst. We're going to go actually now to Mr. Black Hole himself, Kevin McHale.
Oh, interesting.
This was his actual when Reddit user Punk McSquiggles, thank you, Punk, put this question up on the NBA Reddit a few months ago. He was inspired by the fact that the black hole was his nickname when he played for the Celtics. joking that when the basketball was passed inside to Miguel, it disappeared because he rarely passed it back out of the perimeter. Let's see here, career. Yep, we're getting a little bit worse. So Mr. Black Hole himself, his first year at Boston, played 82 games. How many assists do you think he had over 82 games?
Total, or are we still at average?
Average.
0.7.
Oh, wow. I'm not even going to give you a chance, Johnny. You nailed it,
'Cause you
Aaron.
did. All right.
Oh, let's go.
0.7.
Oh,
1.7 for his career.
okay.
But the guy, actually, I gotta check Shabazz. Oh, let's go to Shabazz real quick. Anyone remember Shabazz Muhammad?
Yes.
Played for the
same draft
Wolverines.
class as Giannis, and drafted before him, by the way.
This is I mean, I just want you to imagine the opposite of Giannis. In all things, especially assists per game, period. All time, he only played from 13 to 18, so like 5-ish years.
I actually have definitely read what the stat was. I'll go 0.4. Like, I know it's real bad.
It's real bad.
Yeah.
Johnny, I'll give you a chance this time.
0.3.
Y'all, it was 0.5.
Okay.
Over 278 games played.
Oh, that's so many games to have so few assists.
So many games to not. Yeah.
Oh,
It's so
man.
bad. Now, we've been kind of just doing general stats because the clear winner, the overall clear winner, not even a question,
Dion Waiters?
is Yinka Dare.
Who?
Oh, I was going to say Andre Drummond, actually, Aaron.
Oh.
No, Yinka Dare was a Nigerian basketball player, played 4 seasons for the NBA, and then had some stints in other leagues. But we're going to focus on his NBA career.
Okay.
Played for the Nets from 94 to 98. He went in the 94 draft as the 14th overall pick. So played for George Washington, all that good stuff. Yinka Dare is my new favorite player. I can't give you... He played 4 years, 110 games total. How many assists do you think he made? I'm not talking average per game at this point.
Just
I
total.
want your number. Yeah.
I'll go 37. I'd also be curious what his
37?
minutes per game were, because that's
Yeah.
obviously part of it. But we'll go 37.
Okay, 37.
28.
Okay. 4.
Huh?
For 4 years, he averaged 1 per year.
Oh. Well, he's playing
Now, it's
NBA
like,
like
oh,
I
did he
play
get,
2K, man. Whew.
Now, if he was good, awesome. Let's see here. His first full season, he played 50, and he played, and this was his personal best, 58. I'll be fair. He played 58 games, 58 out of 70 odd games that year. Let me see what they had that season. Out of 82 games, he played 58. He then played 41 games and then 10 games. So like, I'll be a little bit gracious here, but his fullest season, the 95-96 season, he played 58 out of 82 games. He turned the ball over 72 times and registered no assists.
Oh, so he was playing a little bit then.
He was,
Ooh.
to be fair, yeah.
Okay.
Averaged 2.1 points, 2.6 rebounds, and I gave you guys the option of numerical because career average rounds down to 0.0, but 0.1 is as close as you can get technically, but it's closer to 0.0. So Black Hole is like no one saw the ball, not even the net.
Wow. That's crazy.
that just goes to show you selfishness doesn't get you ahead in life. You have to give other people the ball.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good life lesson, I think.
So,
I'm
yeah.
curious where Deion Waiters is as far as like if you did like usage percentage and stuff like that, because he's the guy that comes to mind. But I think it's just because he has a wise saying that if you go 0 for 16 and stop shooting or whatever his quote is, that you shouldn't keep shooting.
He's had a pretty decent, again, relative to we've talked about, he kind of ranks around the Carmelo Anthony style, like career.
Yeah.
His career is about 2.8 per game. So he hovers around that 2 to 3 per season. Or sorry, 2 to 3 assists per game per season. So
all right,
he's
bad.
not the worst.
Yeah.
Not great. Bad, but not the worst.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, good trivia there, Josh. And by good, I mean bad trivia.
Thank you.
Bad
Thank
trivia.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm really glad when you both said immediately, oh, I know who it, I was like, oh crap, they know about
Well,
me
we were
today.
current. Are we thinking Michael Porter Jr.? Is that who you were thinking, Johnny? Like if we're talking current players?
No, I was going to go Andre Drummond.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
That dude's a black hole. You don't get that ball back.
Well, true.
Although he gets some stat padded assists probably.
Oh, technically he right now his current career average is 1.2.
See.
And for as much as
So-
he's had the ball, and as much as he's been
Exactly.
double teamed in his career.
Yeah, no, he's
Yeah.
playing.
If we're using usage rate,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think he has
That's
a
a good one.
strong case.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Michael Porter Jr., that's the joke that he always shoots the rock. Number one, he's normally pretty darn open because that offense is great, but he
Yeah.
actually does pass the ball way more than people. Like, it's a good meme. I get it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
He actually does pass from time to time.
When he's in the mood.
I love it. All right, listeners, thanks for being here. We appreciate it as always. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you enjoy your week. We've got lots more football coming around the corner. Probably not for Josh, but for Johnny and I, fall is here. It's lovely. We're excited about it.
We got a cold front too. It's going to
good.
be in the mid to low 80s the next 2 or 3 days.
Hey, there you go. There you go. We'll take it.
out
Before
the
we
sweater.
go, if you've made it this far, then I think your secret is safe with us. Because one of the things I did not talk about in the intro is the three of us, when we were in Dallas, we went to Arlington just to check out the sites. Johnny and I had never seen Jerry World or Globe Life. And so we get out of the car, we park, and we get out, and we're checking out Jerry World. We know the gift shop's open. So we go check it out. We walk it in. If you haven't been there, the gift shop is so
Stupid.
too fancy. It's stupid, Josh. You're right. It's so fancy. Very nice. Very well put together.
Yeah.
2-story gift shop. So we're walking in, and you can kind of see the stadium barely from the gift shop. And you can see a bunch of people inside. And obviously, being us, we're like, well, how do we get in there? Because you couldn't get there from the gift shop. You couldn't do any of that. Well, it turned out that it was the day before the home opener, so it was the Dallas Cowboys Fan Fest. So there's a bunch of people there. They're on the field. They're walking around the stadium. We just had to figure out a way in. Well, we figured out that if you find someone who is smoking, they are not allowed to do it inside the facility. So they do it just outside. And in this particular case, this individual had 1 foot indoors and 1 foot outside, was smoking, and was holding the door ajar. So we, being the three of us, confidently just said, oh yeah, we'll take that opportunity to walk through that door. Needless to say, we got to see the stadium. It was very cool, very big, far too big. The TV screen is ginormous. It was everything that we thought Jerry World would be from seeing it on TV. It was pretty cool. So thanks to that guy who left the door open for us, and we got to see the stadium. That was on our social media as well. But thought I would tell that story. If someone tells you that we broke into the stadium, that would be incorrect.
That is false.
That would be wrong. We were actually let into the stadium.
Welcomed.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. We accidentally joined a tour that we weren't supposed to. We did get out of that because those people paid for it. So we did not join the tour for free. We just did enough to get some pictures and say we made it to Jerry World, and then we left. But that's a story for you if you made it all the way to the end of this episode. If someone tells you that Fifth and Goal broke into Jerry World, you can now tell them that's incorrect. We were let in kindly. And then we were mindful and demure and looked around and got some pictures and left. That's what happened. So anyways, listeners, I hope you have a good week. Enjoy the college football. Enjoy whatever else you got going on. If you root for a good Major League Baseball team, more power to you. Enjoy the playoffs maybe this upcoming few weeks. We'll talk to you next week.